I have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro, which I'll call the 6K Pro from now on, as well as the iPhone 15 Pro. I want to compare what log is on both devices. Of course, this is real-world review, and that's how I want to compare. I'm wanting to become a filmmaker and videographer in general, not that I am. Sure, I have some experience in filming and editing, but not the same way as other people that are doing these comparisons. The reason why you would pick this video is simply to see the difference in the most basic way. Firstly, the lenses that I'm using on the 6K Pro is a Sigma 18-35mm f1.8 DC HSM, which is an APS-C lens, just like the Canon 80-200 f2.8L lens that I have here, which both itself retail for more than the base price of the iPhone 15 Pro. Now the obvious difference is that the iPhone is super small. The 6K Pro is a huge camera, but even small cameras aren't as small as the iPhone. Also, you almost have to rig it out if you don't want to pay for internal storage. I paid $150 for a 2TB SSD, while CFast equivalent is not even 2TB to begin with, and also not cheap. Actually, it's similar to the iPhone, being 128GB built in, and moving to 1TB is an extra $500. So, not so far off. One thing you can do on both is use the SSD via USB-C. However, the USB-C port on the iPhone does not give out enough power to most NVMe drives that need 5 watts or more, which is pretty much all of them, while the 6K Pro does this with ease. That said, there becomes a heat issue if not managed well. This Samsung T5 I have here is perfect for both devices, with the iPhone requiring it if you want to shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, but all the other formats will work without an SSD. Okay, so before I show you some of the footage, the iPhone is shooting ProRes LOG, which makes the film look like this until you add a LUT on it. When using Final Cut Pro 10, this is applied by default, at least on mine. If not, you can click File, click the inspector up here, make sure that the setting is set to Extended, and click Camera LUT to choose the LUT that you want, like Apple Log. The iPhone's log is 4K 16:9 ProRes 422HQ, while the 6K Pro has a bunch of different things, but I'm shooting at 6K 16:9 BRAW with 5:1 compression, which I then converted to 6K 16:9 ProRes 422HQ. I'll explain why I kept 6K over 4K in a little bit, but for now, enjoy some shots. Now the first thing you will notice is that the 6K Pro has crazy depth of field, while the iPhone gets the edge for continuous autofocus, but also stabilization. Sure, you can stabilize both in post, but it's definitely not the same as actual sensor stabilization. Also, I edit in Final Cut Pro, so I don't actually benefit from the gyro stabilization that the 6K Pro offers unless I use DaVinci Resolve. I did, however, get another lens that has stabilization, but I got it too late for this video, although I do have one video with it. Both devices technically rely on stabilization in the camera lens, but the iPhone sensor shifting stabilization is always going to be superior, just like having half of a gimbal. But we can fix some shots in post and make the 6K Pro footage look really good and sharp, especially if we downscale it to 4K. Another thing is that the iPhone's exposure is auto, while the 6K Pro is manual. Sure, there's an auto option, but it's not as smooth changing as the iPhone, which isn't the smoothest in the first place. 6K Pro is good for quick bits, while the iPhone is good for longer shots. That said, there is a way to lock focus and exposure on iPhones, which has been here for a while. You can also see in the iPhone shots that the exposure is dramatically high, while the 6K Pro looks darker even with higher ISO than normal. But during the day, it feels like the iPhone is just super bright and vibrant, but both cameras benefit from having log, allowing you to really dial in the shots for how you'd like. So you got the shot and it looks flat, and now you throw a LUT on it and call it a day. No, this is where I say that I am new to this, because for the last 6 years I've edited hundreds of hours of footage, but for the last year I've shot log on my 6K Pro and been sad for spending so much on that camera. I'm not the best at editing log. Like I said, this is a real world review, and generally if you're interested in this but don't know much about log, you're in the same boat as me. I'm just the captain here. I don't have the patience to learn the full potential of log, but in the future I will. Even now, I still like the HDR shots that the iPhone produces, but I love the extra sharpness and focus that a full-size camera can give you, not to mention the benefits of zooming and stabilization when editing 6K video into a 4K project. There is a time and place for everything, which makes the iPhone 15 Pro an awesome B camera, but it also allows people to start making money with using this as an A cam until you can afford a full-size camera. After all, this setup is $1,500 for the phone, while the setup for the 6K Pro here is over $3,600, and that doesn't even include all the other lenses that I have. The takeaway should be that the iPhone 15 Pro video can look less like an iPhone video, but at the same time, that has always been the case since ProRes. Would I recommend this for client work? No. Would I recommend you get this to get more into filming? Absolutely. Also, mess around with the Blackmagic camera app, which is ironically very similar to the camera that I have. That said, I'm still struggling to use this app. Either way, if I have more footage, you'll be seeing that right now, but regardless, I hope you learned something, and as always, thanks for watching.